Yo, it's Guido coming at you with a tactics talk about the art of strategy. My coaster was stuck to my coffee cup. It's a very full cup, so it's going to be a little difficult to drink initially. The fart of strategy. Well, hold on, guys. Don't run off. I know the community is not too jazzed about a lot of the extra modes. Neither am I. Generally, when I do a video on these, it's not very flattering. I just find that Wargaming likes to wander away from the core gameplay that makes World of Tanks so good and try other things. And that's fine, but I find that odd oftentimes when you're doing it within a game that's already doing so well. If you want to develop stuff like that, I'm looking at you, Steel Hunter. Go ahead. Also, to some extent, the Halloween stuff, the Waffenträger event, I don't know. People like those. In general, I think this community doesn't a lot of times, although there are certainly fans out there of various ones, and some people like one and don't like another. I say that because I kind of like this one. I don't think it's in any danger of taking over my Watt obsession and becoming the thing that I would like to play constantly, but I do find some things very interesting about it. So first off, it's a RTS style game, but it keeps the basic gameplay of World of Tanks intact. So you're able to jump into a tank and it looks just like World of Tanks. We're playing on the same maps that we understand, using the same tanks. There's a couple limitations. You are dealing with AI. We'll go over some of the good and bad, but as a general idea of it, I'm okay with it. I'm going to also say that the rewards are not so much that you're going to feel compelled to play it as in, hey, I need to get that overpowered tank. That's a problem Wargaming has with putting overpowered desirable tanks at the end of events like this that nobody wants to play. And I won't say forcing, because you make your own daggum decisions, but you feel compelled, like, man, I really want that tank, and then you slog through some miserable experience just to get it. Some of you may think this is a miserable enough experience that you don't want the rewards, but I will say they're not bad. There are some plus 50% credit boosters. There's 2,500 bonds at the end. And what I'm going to say now is it's not that hard to get them. Now, that is hardly a glowing endorsement of a mode to say, well, it's not that hard to get them, if you don't also at the same time say it's a lot of fun getting them. I personally think it's okay fun. It's a nice distraction. It's not bad. I've enjoyed it. Break. We're at the beginning of this thing on the 26th, which is tomorrow. We're going to open it up. And we're going to talk a little bit about what you can do tomorrow that you can't do today. Today, all you can do is a 1v1. So it's the afternoon of the 25th that I'll put this out. You can only do the strategist 1v1. You can build up some intel to be a strategist in the 1v7 against actual humans. We'll talk about that a little bit later, but it's fairly limited right now. Unfortunately, if you haven't started, things are going to be a little more difficult in terms of getting the points, but I don't think that much more difficult, because there's going to be more missions available, I believe. Not 100% sure because I haven't seen tomorrow yet. But I'm 1 point off of where I could be because I didn't max it out the first day. But say you started today, you can get 2 of the points you need, and we'll talk about that. So overall, what are some of the good things? Just general observations about this game mode. It's an RTS. If you don't know anything about real-time simulations, or you don't like them, I suppose knowing anything is a little better than not liking. If you don't like them, then you may not like this mode very much. But it's not just an RTS. You know, a lot of RTSs in the past have had this idea that you're going to be able to grab a unit and use it and play as a singular unit. As a general idea, that's a fairly bad idea unless the unit is extremely powerful. So other game companies have kind of looked into this idea. Well, what we have here is we've got the basic bones of World of Tanks. So when you do jump into it, it's very well fleshed out. A lot of times you get into these RTSs, the individual units are not very well fleshed out. It's just a point and click and spam damage, and who cares if you're actually from that point of view? It doesn't really matter. Matter of fact, a lot of times it's a net negative because you're not controlling the rest of your units in other RTSs. In this one, there are times where you do want to get into a single unit and you can turn and sway the battle. And while it is an RTS, it's not, you know, thousands of units against thousands of units. It's 7v7. There's a limited number of units going against each other. Still, mass of fire, things like that apply. We'll get into that when we get into the replays. So I find it to be kind of an interesting combination between the RTS and the ability to get in and play World of Tanks as a singular tank. You can control a whole team. Have you ever been mad at your team because they're not doing what you think they should? Well, now's your chance. Unfortunately, you're controlling bots. Well, maybe that's not a lot of difference, actually. between being able to control your team. It is closer to a Clan Wars / organized kind of gameplay. Clearly, the bots are not human. They have their limitations. We'll get into that. But it's basically what, and that's incredibly important, in my opinion, to make this kind of interesting and neat. And then we talked about it a bit, but you can control any tank yourself. Of all your set, you can jump in and out of any tank, get into there in a critical point, go do a scouting run early, set up your scout, come back, grab your tanks, move them around, set them up in positions, clump them together and do a push. Very, very interesting. All right, let's jump a little bit into the bad, and we'll discuss this more as we go. But some of the things that are irritating about it, and I just found this out, there is a training mode here up in the top left of the screen. Let me just show you how to get here, actually, because I started it off there. Say you come into your garage, here you are sitting, and you're wondering how you're going to do the fart of strategy. There's actually there it is. So you can hit the tent, which apparently has a limited, there we go. So you can click on the tent, you can get in there, or you can do this drop down, and it's right here, Art of Strategy. All right. So those are the ways to get into that. There is a training, as I said, but guess what? It's time gated for some reason. So, okay, yep, continue, and nope, sorry, ceasefire is in effect, which brings us to the next one. Time gates in these events are extremely annoying. At first, I didn't really understand why the time gate might be there. I suspect it's because there is a leaderboard, although why spamming for 12 hours is, or whatever the amount of time is they let you do it, I think it's 10 or 12, something like that. Why spamming for 12 hours is fine, but 24 is right out, I cannot tell you. I don't know, maybe they're trying to save people from themselves or whatever, but I'll tell you what it does do. For people who play in the morning, it screws them over. So that is extremely annoying, especially in the 1v1, where you're not really doing any count-ins, things like that. Could be more of a factor when you start talking about 7 players against a strategist. I don't know how you would group up. I suppose you could all try to count in or something. Gamers will figure out some way to work the system, you know, but the time gate is stupid. Wargaming, get rid of it. I hate it. Anyway, there you have it. So, more annoying than that, actually, though, is I can't even do the training event unless it's in the window. Now, that's just plain stupid. I mean, that is just plain stupid. I can't even do the training unless it's in the window. Dumb, dumb, dumb. All right, AI pathing. We'll talk about it when we look at the replay, but the AI pathing leaves a bit to be desired. If you grab all your tanks and attempt to move them all into one place, the only formation they have is a big line at the end, and they will oftentimes, multiple of them take the same line. You'll see the little white line. We'll show it to you when we get into the replay. But what that means is faster and slower tanks will get all bunched up at the intersection of the lines, and then they'll wait for each other, and they'll go one by one, even if there is 14 miles to the right and left on that. All right, somebody at the door. AI pathing. Yeah, even if there's 14 miles to the right or left, they'll all try to go on the same line. So that requires a little bit of fiddly command. I'll tell you how to do that, show you kind of how to do that individually with the tanks so that you don't get them in a traffic jam. And sometimes when you get them in the traffic jam, they get stuck on stuff or they just stop moving. And a couple times I've had to actually go into this tank myself and move it out of wherever it was stuck. Even though it wasn't physically stuck, it just seemed to not know how to get out of that position. Stances, we'll talk about that. Just in general, they're not very good, and in particular, the one for the scout is very painful. We'll talk about it as it goes, but essentially you've got adaptive defense and recon, and they all have their problems in terms of scouting, because even with recon, it tries to get in a bush, and oftentimes it will leave a good bush you've put it and positioned it in, and it will attempt to get in another bush, which tends to make it stick its rear end out and its front end into another bush and expose itself. It's super annoying, but all these things are little things around the edges that you've got to deal with. When you're dealing with AI, we're going to complain about AI right up to the point where it gets better than us, and then we're going to complain about AI because it's better. That's always going to be a complaint. All right, let's do a little tour of this screen then. What we've got going on here is the training deal. That's the leaderboard. I wouldn't worry about that. Probably if you haven't started, you're going to be nowhere near it. It really is about spamming games. It's also about doing well. The guys who are up there are winning a lot of games. and they're playing a lot of games. So if you don't have time to play a lot of games and the wherewithal to win a lot of games, then the leaderboard may not be your thing. I think it's possible to get into the bottom edge of it. There are some prizes for the leaderboard out there, but if you're starting right now, for my money, what you're really looking for, we'll click on this middle section right here. What you're really looking for are these rewards down below, and my camera's kind of blocking it, but let's just move that real quick if I can find it. Just stick me over here. Ooh, Dizzy. All right. So a rammer, 20 of the plus 50% credits. That's really good. One universal manual. One. I mean, for gaming. At 6, you're going to give us 20 of one of the most desirable, desirable personal reserves. One of the most desirable doodad extra thing out there. At 12, you're going to give us exactly one universal manual. I'll tell you, man, sometimes, I love you guys, I say it all the time, but sometimes your reward to effort is bizarro. That's strange. Anyway, 2,500 bonds, and you only need 18 of these guys right here. I'll tell you how to get these guys in just a minute. Well, what the heck? Let's do it. Let's close this back out. All right, so that's how you get there. On this screen right here, there's a couple of the things that are important. You've got the 1v1 strategist, which is what is open right now, and it's free until the 26th, which is tomorrow. Then it's going to cost 100 orders, which right now you cannot get. Orders equals 100 orders equals a battle as a strategist against a strategist. I don't know why it had to be 100 and not 1. Here, let's move the camera. I don't understand it sometimes, man. I really don't. But anyway, it's 100. It could be 1,000. Why not 1,000,000 to 1? I don't know. Strategist is over here. That's being the strategist 1 versus 7. And that requires intel. You will notice that I have 900. You can get those right now by playing as a strategist in the 1v1. I'll show you how to get that. And then free, when the event kicks off, it will be free to play as a tanker against one strategist. Essentially what's going on here, and we've had this kind of mechanic happen with the Halloween event, you're building up your points right now so that you can play as a strategist, so we have strategists to play against all the tankers who are going to be playing for free. We'll see how that works out. That's going to be kind of interesting. I think the strategist is going to really have his hands full, taking on 7 players. I'm going to say I don't see how they would win, but I suppose they will win some. I think they're going to lose more than they win with 7 tankers. But of course, it's pub, so they go in all directions. If the players all go in one direction together cleverly, it should be a pretty easy one. You'll notice that when we click here again, I have 7 of the 18 I can get. I should have 8. By the end of today, I'll have 10 or 9. I could have had 10. I missed one of them the first day. So you can get 2 of these guys right now per day. So we're going to show you that right now. Over here on the missions, you can see that on the left side for strategists, this is the only one that's open all the way on the left. The others will be open on April 26th. You can see the little notes right there. And what happens here is it is 60 points for a win and 40 points for a loss. You make progress, right? A loss does not make you go backwards. It does hurt you on the leaderboard. You actually lose points on the leaderboard, but not for your individual rewards. What that means is 4 wins and you're done for the day. You've got your 2 points. See how you can do 0? You get 2 right here, completed 0 of 2, and each time you complete one, you get 1 of the collection elements, and it will be a random you do not have yet. The same thing applies when they open up the tanker rewards that you do not have yet. That's good. Also, this point system is similar, although I don't know because it doesn't spell it out whether it's 40 and 60. It says, while playing as a tanker, the number of points you earn depends on the battle's outcome and your battle performance. So you're going to be building up these points in order to get these doodads here, of which you need 18 of them, if we go back to the rewards, to get to the 2,500 bonds. That being said, the event goes to the 5th. You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 days. I'm not going to count the 5th. 10 days to get 18 of those things, even if you have not started. Even if you have not started. And on my math, provided this strategist one continues, which I think it will, you will be able to get 4 of these a day. 4 of these a day. So I'm not going to do all the different math possibilities there, but you are still able to finish this off and get your 2,500 bonds. What I will say is, we're going to look at a replay. As a general rule, my plan has been to take fast tanks, rage in, clumped up together, and just go at it. And then mid to late match, jump into one of my good tanks that's still alive and try to turn any battle or finish guys off if anything bad is going on. Again, we'll talk about that when we get to the replays. Even if you lose, you get 40 points. So there have been people on the forums saying they just grab their tanks and command them to all go to the enemy cap and they don't care what happens. That's not what I'm doing. I am rushing. I am being super aggressive and attacking, but I am controlling my tanks. I am jumping into tanks. I am kind of enjoying it, and I'm still winning. I'm 15 and 10. All right, so I'm not blowing up the leaderboard or anything like that, but I'm winning more than I lose, and I'm quickly getting through these missions. Math in public is 3 losses, and you're done with 1 point. 6 losses, and you've got all 2, or 4 wins, right? 4 wins and you're done, or some combination between 6 and 4. So between 4 and 6 battles, you are done with that, and you've got your 2 points. I suspect a similar situation will happen for tankers, and then on that day you could actually get 4. So I think you can still make it. This is the stats, whatever. I have 25 battles. I did the math. I'm 15 and 10. I don't see anywhere on this where it perfectly tells you what your numbers are, unless it actually nope, there's no number there. Okay, this is the leaderboard. You can see I'm down at 1193. I'm in no danger of winning this thing. This guy has cranked out a lot of battles, a bunch of battles. That was my discussion earlier. If you're going to try to get near the top of the leaderboard, you're going to be spamming games. If you haven't started, you're way behind. If you're not already near here and winning, you're probably way behind. But that's not what this little guide is about. This guide is about getting you in there to play and getting these personal little doodads here. All right. Last thing I'll say. Down at the bottom, you're going to have 7 tanks. There is a default setup. It's a fine setup. If you don't even want to mess with it, you don't even have to click on it. You will also be defaulted. I believe it's these 3, although I might have selected these. I don't remember. But when you click on it, you're able to select 3 of the 6 defenses. I've been going with the rocket launcher, the gun turret, and the flamethrower. I find the AT guns to be kind of useless. They haven't turned any fights that I've played against them on, and they die so fast, they're really not great. 100 hit points. So, yes, they can pump out some damage, but they just die too fast. The flamethrower is brutal, but it's extremely short range. So it's good for a short range choke point or something like that. I haven't used the MG turret. I've played against the watchtower. In fact, I don't know if I've seen anybody use the MG turret, to be honest. I've seen the watchtower on other teams, especially camping teams that want to get a view of when you're coming in. It's very difficult to sneak up on anybody in this mode. What with the scouts and the way the maps are built up, and now these watchtowers for your defensive guys, you're gonna find these. Well, I will say about the watchtowers is, if you get lit, it could be a watchtower. It's not necessarily a tank. Now the enemy team sees you now. You're lit, but I got stopped a couple times and I couldn't figure out what was seeing me because it didn't seem like there was a tank in the position I thought it was in. I went a little further and I found the watchtower, so that's how I figured that out. So you select those things. I like flamethrower for nice and close to the cap, just for a little cap defense. I like the MRL and the turret and the gun turret. This is more defense too, although there are a couple positions on the map where you can select and get it a little forward. And this thing's pretty awesome to put it down the lane you're going to attack on, and it's a bit of fire support in the area that you're attacking into, because it can reach across the map. You can do the same thing with the tanks. What I will say here is, if you look down, once you click on it, right here, right below it, you can tell what that slot can be. This can only be a heavy tank, and here's all the tanks that can be put in there. This one can be a heavy or a medium tank, and subsequently heavy, medium tank, TD, medium, scout medium, and TD. You can't see this behind me, but TD or Arty. I've seen people take Arty. I see no reason for it. I have not seen Arty. I don't even remember being hit by Arty. I don't know how good the AI is with it, and I'm pretty sure you would not want to be running an Arty as a player and letting the AI buffoon all your tanks. So for my money, I'd leave the Arty out of it, but whatever. It's kind of a throwaway mode. Maybe check it out. What you can't do is have 2 Arty. All right. So what I did, let's get back out of this so you can kind of see the tanks a little bit better, is I made a fairly fast setup. A 277, a Leopard, a 50B, an STB, a 30 Bravo, a 121, and then what's underneath there is an Object 268/4, which is a relatively fast and heavily armored, hard-hitting TD. So a little bit of fire support and a bunch of lighter kind of tanks that are fast. The 277 with the hybrid thing. You could go super heavy. I mean, you could actually click on this. You could go Mouse, E100, and another heavy like a IS-7. So you could have those 3 heavies, 3 mediums of some kind. Actually, 2 TDs. So you could go 268 maybe and a 123, and then have a couple other just mediums in there. So you could go with a super heavy setup. I might try that just for giggles, see what happens. But right now I'm going with the light setup. The other thing I'll talk about here is you can't change the configuration. If you click on the different tanks, it's up here in the top right. But you can see what your tank has. What cracks me up about this is they're using GLDs, which I can't even with that. You know, the 277 is running a GLD. Okay. Good job, Wargaming. Yeah, GLD on that guy. This just shows you what skills they have. I don't know if there's really any information to be gleaned off of that. It doesn't tend to matter that much, and you can't change it. All right, so you can go with the standard setup, or you can pick your squad, pick your defenses you want to use. If you want to be offensive, go with the offensive setup on defenses. You know, the big turret and the MRL or whatever. You want to go fast tanks, slow tanks, whatever, you can set all that stuff up. Before we get into the examples, the last thing I want to do is show on the missions tab. There is an Art of Strategy mission, and it is for playing Art of Strategy for 30,000 damage. You can do it 3 times a day. You get 100 of these intel dudes, and that is important because you need those to play as a strategist. Right? So right now it looks like I can play 9 times as a strategist starting on April 26th, and then unlimited as a tanker. And that's good because I've got 9 of those set up. So that's 9 more points right there. No, it's not 9 points, it's 9 game plays. If you consider it takes me probably, it's gonna be 4 to 6. So that's a couple points. So it looks like I probably want to try to maximize these a little bit. Again, you might be a little behind the power curve if you haven't started, but I still think you can get there. And if you play as a tanker, you can build up the points that you need. So if you look right there, when you highlight it, play as a strategist, play as a tanker to earn intel, required playing as a strategist, play as a tanker to earn orders. So you're going to earn both of those by playing as a tanker. All right? So strategist 1v1 or a strategist 1v7 is going to take extra orders and whatever the other one's called. Orders and intel. All right. It is a little convoluted, but it really isn't that difficult, to be quite honest. Let's jump into a game. I'll show you an example of how I've been doing it, which seemed to work pretty well, at least good enough to crank out the points I want to get to these rewards down here. Really, all I'm after is 18 of those points to get 2,500 bonds. All right, this is good. I was a little bit worried the replay wouldn't have some of this stuff, but this is the count in right here, and it's quite long. It's a minute, but that's because you're going to want to set things up. If you look at the screen right here, you can see that you've got your 3 defenses you picked and your 7 tanks over here on the left. I am up here in the north. Obviously, the green one is my cap. Then these positions here are where you're going to set stuff. So we've got the flamethrower, and we'll watch this go. I wonder what happens if I click. Am I going to have to start over? Oh my gosh, it let me do it. That's pretty funny in the replay. All right. So you can see that I'm clicking on where, and you can see all these different positions where the flamethrower can be. Generally, I put mine back here. In fact, that's probably what you'll see me do once I start the replay again, provided it doesn't crash, because the replay is not quite right with this mode. Can I actually do this? I can. Excellent. Now these are the gun turrets. You can see the range there, or at least the spotting range is not great. So you can put it up here as more of an offensive help into the city, over here to kind of cover the city and the field, or out in the field. I don't know why you would want to put it there, but you might. Or maybe just back here to be just super defensive. They are hard to kill. And then the rocket launcher. The thing about the rocket launcher I want you to watch is it does have a fan where it can shoot. And you highlight it, and you can see the fan where it can shoot. That's actually not bad, but it's not going to cover anything coming across the field over from the west side. That one does that, so he's looking that way. Straight into the city. You can see the different fans of where they can look, and sometimes even the ones that are right next to each other are quite different. As a general rule on this map, I've been selecting this one because I am charging right down the east side of the map, which is what you'll see me do right here. Then you can click on tanks, and these are the positions you can load the tank into. And I've been doing things like putting them in. I was stacking them all on one spot. I started to put them, especially if the two spawn points were close enough for me to get where I wanted to be. Like I said, I'm going to rush down this east side. I've been splitting them up, faster tanks and slower tanks, because of the AI pathing, and it's been helping me not get them all goobered up together. And it's a little bit less micromanagement of the tanks. We'll see that as we go right here. So those are all the setups. Let's go ahead and watch me do this. See what happens when I start selecting. I wonder if it's going to show it. It might not even show it. It might even be thinking I'm setting it up myself since I clicked on it. It's very interesting. There we go. Looks like I'm putting tanks in. All right, there. So I've set everything up. All right, this is confusing, guys. I didn't quite understand this. When it starts, it says 1 of 1, which means you have 1 of 1 to place. When you place it, it then says 0 of 1 and goes green. That means you've placed it. You have 0 left to place. I just can't even. All right, so green means you've placed your tank. If you don't do anything, it will randomly place it. And then you can click on battle, and you can go into the battle, which is what I did right there. You see me move around, and now here's my setup. All right, I've got 3 of my fast tanks on the right side. I've got my some of my slower tanks over here. You can see the whole map. You can zoom out like this. All right, this is when you are not in a tank. The way you get into a tank is you click on it and you press Q. Some of the commands will come up, and we'll watch that as we go here. Okay, so I bunch up the tanks and I set them all to move to this position. In an RTS, if you're unfamiliar, as a general rule, the general way to win an RTS is to get the most amount of units in one spot and attack together. There are other techniques, there are other tactics, you can do feints, all things are possible, but as a general idea for those of you who don't play an RTS, it's all the tanks in one place. All the units in one place, overwhelm whatever you find and move on. It's the same idea in organized gameplay with, say, Clan Wars, right? Yes, there's different strats and they'll spot certain areas and maybe do a feint and run back, but as a general rule, you want to get all your tanks together and focus fire, and that's the same idea here, which is why I'm going to bring everything together. I'm not even worrying about a scout, though. I gave up on the scout. I was using one earlier, but don't need it. I'm just going to take all my tanks, and whatever tanks we find, we're going to engage. So what I've done here, if you look down on the bottom, you have some controls here. You've got Q, which gets into a tank. So you click on the tank, and you press Q, and you jump into the tank. Unfortunately, am I going to have to do this to get back to that thing again? Now, once it comes back up, I'll discuss the controls because they're not there right now. Bit of a goofiness with the replay. All right, off we go. I'm going to move up to here. I hope that comes back, actually. I don't know if it will. You can see what I'm doing with my camera. Now, when I'm talking about... All right, good, it came back up. We'll talk about it as well here. When I'm talking about the pathing, you'll note that I took one tank, and I believe it was the 268-4. I want him up there. He's slower, so I'm going to send him first, and everything else will catch up. But I want him to have his own path through all that stuff. And what I found is if you select them individually and set them slightly away from each other instead of just accepting the highlight all of them and send the whole thing across, they won't bunch up and get in each other's way. They're still going to do it here. You'll see it in just a minute. Q gets into the tank. Space stops the tank. However, space stops the tank, but it still has its stance. Its stances that we talked about are adapt, hold, and recon. Although I think this actually is called defense on the other page, wasn't it? I don't know. Adapt, they act on their own and they don't move too far, but they will move around and fire. Hold, they'll hold in the designated position, engage target's opportunity. So that's why you don't want your scouts to be set on either one of those. And then recon, vehicles operate inside the designated perimeter. They try to stay concealed and hold fire until spotted. Unfortunately, the try to stay concealed part is where they kind of move around, and even if you sometimes you take a tank, you got the long bush, and you put it sideways, and it's fully enclosed in the bush. I did that several times, and I'd click on it, I'd leave the tank, And then the AI, even though I was on recon, would go, ooh, I want this other bush. And they'll drive right out of the bush and stick their nose into another bush, and the rear end sticking out, and they get seen. Then they get seen, then they fire, and then they're really seen, and it's all over. All right. Right-click, withdraw, and then right-click, rush charge. All right. So an RTS, for those of you who don't know, and most of you do, if you do, I don't know if I can't do it actually, but if you left click, say you take the mouse, put it up here, and I left click and pull down and right, it will make a box. And it will select every unit in that box, and then you can send the whole shebang with a right click up to a position. Say I wanted to go there. That's what I did with the 268. I'll see if we can get some examples of that here in just a minute, because we're going to drive up to this hill. You'll see they take their position. Now I'm individually, see how I'm moving guys around. And did you see how that path kind of intersected a couple times? It wanted to go on the same path. Well, that's a problem when they all try to go to the same spot. Just kind of watch how this works. All the paths are kind of changing. So I'm doing a lot of individual pathing, just trying to keep them out of each other's way right here. Now watch the, I think it's the 277 that gets stuck. All right, see how they're all trying to, look at these two idiots. They want to go around this. I don't know. I don't know if the AI is trying to take cover as it moves or what, but there's zero reason for this guy and this guy to go to the right. So it's very fiddly at times. This one cracked me up. Watch the 277. He is so confused. He's like, I don't know, there. I want to go there. No, I don't know. Oh, no. Oh, I'm going to take this route. Look at this dude's. I'm going to go this way, and then I'm going to go along this building, and then I'm going to get in this guy's way, and I want to go there. I think you're going to see me go. There we go. I'm trying to figure out the 277. So I queue into the 277. So you click on it, queue. I get out, and then I set his spot up there, and that was for everybody. So what I did there is I left clicked, I drug, I got all of them highlighted. You can see they're all highlighted in green, and then I right clicked the position I want them to go to. Single right click will drive there. Double right click is apparently like fast mode, although I don't really know how that works, because the speed is the speed of a tank. I haven't figured that one out. It's rush, basically, is what this says right here. Rush charge. All right. So I'll show you what I'm doing on my camera. All right, I moved the 268 out because I want him to be the first guy. See if he gets lit. You will see a little light bulb go there if they show up. So now my dudes are all kind of coming through here together, more or less. That's good. And I decided to move them through there. And we're going to get a customer here. There we go. All right, so there's the enemy's turret. Very difficult to destroy, but can be done. What I've done here is I've highlighted everybody, and I've right-clicked, or I think it's left-click, actually. Left-click, I believe. Left-click to attack it. You can see they're all on rush, so now they're moving in. They're going to start taking on. Let's see if we can get, what am I doing with my camera? There we go. That's the camera I'm using right now. All right, that's my rocket launcher. My rocket launcher, remember I told it to look down that path I was attacking on? That's exactly why I did that, so all of my tanks will go in the same direction. And I'm going to roll this thing up as fast as possible. Notice this AT gun might have got a shot and he's dead. 100 hit points. I mean, anyone can kill it immediately. It's just not a great, it's not a great thing. It gets seen and it gets dead. I've moved these guys forward. I've actually not told them to attack directly the turret. I've just moved them up next to the turret. They will fire as they go in. That's a good thing. If I clicked to fire on the turret, one click, they just stayed way wherever they were, they'll just sit and fire. If I double click, they'll charge at it and fire. The problem with all of the charging stuff, even with what I'm doing here, is they get clumped up and get in each other's way. So there comes a point where you want to do some kind of individual maneuvering. So I'm just moving them up because I know guys are going to get on the side of that turret and get shots from different directions. There goes the other AT gun. They're both dead. So now I've got all my tanks shooting from every direction. I'm passing it because I know they'll fire at it as we go. I'm not that worried about it. All right, now see the red lines? I want to get rid of it, right? I don't want them behind us. I just go ahead and I right-click. I think it's right-click. Can't remember, to be honest, if it's right or left. But anyway, I'm shooting this guy. All right, down it goes. Excellent. And now I'm moving on to the cap. Now this is kind of interesting because here comes, you might be wondering, well, where are his tanks? I saw the one here at LT a little earlier, And what you're going to find from most players who are playing more carefully is they're going to stack their tanks up in kind of a safe spot. As a general rule, when you're doing this map, that position is here in the south of the town, right on the edge, and the north guys kind of do a similar thing up here. Maybe you have somebody watch from up on the ridge, and you're waiting to see if they rush cap, and then you kind of counterattack. So this is a relatively common, organized kind of tactic for this map. I just rush through because I don't care. I'm going to cap, but I am going to engage these guys. And now let's talk about the engagement with the AI / when I'm going to jump into a tank. Because one of the keys to winning this, one of the keys to winning this map, or not this map, but this mode, is effectively controlling your AI and going after the enemy tanks. Now, I could just click on one of them. That would get everybody firing at it, considering I had highlighted my whole team. I could double click and have them charge in there, but what I choose to do, we'll watch this as I go in here, and they will fire, all right, so they have shots of opportunity, but they're not all firing at one guy. You want to focus fire. So now I'm starting to move dudes. See how I'm changing their movement? I'm bringing them all individually because I don't want them jumping all over each other. Now from here I'm going to start focus firing. There goes him. Now I'm going to focus fire the 51. He dies quickly. I'm not really going to focus fire the 268-4 in the face because that'll take forever. Oh, by the way, you can see my MRL is helping me because that's how I set it up to kind of have this fight right here. This is very important. What I have found at this point is what you want to do is individually grab your tanks and try to move them into the side of the enemy team. I don't want to sit there and face a 268-4 face on. I'm going to use my speed and mobility to get my tanks in and around them so that I can get side shots and things. You can see I've just told them all to kind of move in here. They'll fire as they come in. Get them into the position. Get some side shots on these dudes. There we go. And my STB's taking a hit, but he's kind of gone in there. And now we're getting some side shots on these guys. All right. There we go. All right. So I take control of my autoloader because I figure he's probably got some shots, and he had 3 of his 4. So we'll just do that. I'm going to jump out of my autoloader as soon as I'm done. Boom. Let him reload. Let's go grab another tank. I'll get into the 277. We'll come in here. All right, I want to talk about this tank graveyard because this is important. When you move them in and you get this scrap going on, oftentimes there'll be a lot of dead tanks around, and it will be difficult for your AI to figure it out. And if the other player jumps into one of those tanks, he can effectively use all of these dead tanks to hide behind. I've seen it a lot. So now I'm just trying to get in and around these guys and take these guys down. We're in good shape because what's left are 2 autoloaders. So they are going to have a relatively long reload, and I've got a bunch of cyclical other than my AMX50B, so we're in really good shape here. So I'm just going to go ahead and let them continue to take on the Kron, although he's near dead, so we'll just come around and finish him off. And he's doing a good job trying to get his T-57 out of there. T-57 gets hammered by the rocket launcher. He has really no chance, and we'll shut him down. You can tell the player more than likely is controlling the 100 LT because he's running off. So, all right, I jump out of the 277. I'm going to put the 277 and the AMX50B onto the cap. I'm going to jump in. So you click on them both. There we go. Oops. There we go. I changed my mind. I'm going to jump into the Leopard. Oh, that's right. I forgot I had a 121 alive too. I have 4 tanks. So I put 3 tanks onto the cap. I jump into the Leopard, which is a fast tank. Should be able to run down or at least keep track of the T100 LT, and we'll go track this dude down. Because we've killed all his defenses, it's highly unlikely, even if he gets in there and resets, that he's going to be able to win the game, but I'm just looking for more damage. I'm going to try to actually track and shoot him here. Doesn't quite work. Boom. So there's a big hit. I guess that was probably the gun turret. So the gun turret does have a lot more range than I thought, actually, as long as you've got him lit. He does have a long reload, though. So it looks like maybe the gun turret can reach across the whole map as well, at least a significant portion of it. The green, I was thinking the green line was its ability to fire, distance it could fire, but I think that's its view range. Based on, that's the mechanic that the green line means in the game. There we go. I missed a couple shots here. That's just a bad shot. I think he might get, does he get killed here? I don't remember. We miss again. All right, doesn't matter. He gets in there, and we have a victory. All right. And that is essentially what I've been doing. I think there's a lot of other possibilities in terms of tactics. A lot of places, you can run a heavy setup, you can do the camping thing or whatever. But you'll notice that once the engagement started, I was talking a lot about the maneuvering, but the tactic was to focus one tank at a time and kill the light ones first. Just wipe out leopards and mediums and STBs. Just take them off the map. T50, 51s. Then autoloaders. And maybe autoloaders might be a little bit more important than the light tanks if you have good shots at them, like a T57 or AMX50B, a Progetto 65. Get rid of them. Don't let them reload again. And then get the light tank, and then work on the heavy tanks. Start surrounding them. I have had plenty of wins where I was down a few tanks using this, because you are a little bit more at a disadvantage by rushing into them, especially if the other guy's doing well and picking the right tanks to play. But wipe them out, then jump into one of the last few tanks you have and clean up. And you can do a lot of good work in a tank. The problem is if you get in one early and get really busy fighting in your one tank, your AI may be doing very stupid things. So I find that I want to get the AI kind of where I need it to be. It allows me to focus fire, because once you leave, who knows? They kill that target, who knows what target they're attacking. Keep the focus fire down, then as it gets closer to crunch time, jump in a tank and dominate from there. There you go, guys. Some down and dirty, quick and easy for the old fart of strategy. I didn't hate it. I actually like it. I don't think it's something I would play a bunch of. I'm certainly not going to try to get on the leaderboard, but I will play it enough to get the rewards. The rewards are okay. They're not amazing, but they are relatively easy to get, and I've enjoyed the mode to get them. Those are all important things in gaming, right? You kind of like the mode. You have a little bit of enjoyment of it. You get some rewards you want. You have a goal. That's a good thing. It does have problems. The AI is a bit of an issue. It always is. There's a couple things that are sort of strange. The time gate irritates me quite a bit. The pathing is atrocious. What else? Oh, the stances for scouts don't work. There needs to be a command that is stop, do nothing. Do not move, do not fire, do nothing. There needs to be that stance. None of those are quite that. None of the three that you're given. So there you go. It's not nearly as convoluted or complicated as you might think. Once you get 2, 3, 4 battles under your belt, you're going to have a great idea. If you watch this, pretty good idea. The only thing I'm a little bit fuzzy on, and I can't quite remember, the left click, right click. I think it's right click to go where you want them to do, and the attack is left click. So you can highlight, do the box thing with the left click, and then one left click is attack, double left click is rush and attack. Okay, be careful with those, because if you click attack, they're going to kind of hang out where they are and shoot, and that may or may not be a good idea. If you double click attack, they rush in and they make that big conglomeration fight, and that can be a bit of a mess too. So I found a combination of, rush them in, get them surrounding the enemy tanks, get them multiple angles, and then the concentration of fire, and then you may have to individually move tanks to get them where you want them, and then at some point at the critical juncture there, as the fight is really going, jump into one of your tanks and start making a difference. And you'll find that you win more than you lose. Cool. That is all I've got. Let me know what you think of the fart of strategy down below. That we will see you. Good luck.